Hi everybody, welcome back to one more session and let's continue with nitrogen fixation, especially in the case of rhizobium, which has been carried out in the root nodules of leguminous plants. Once rhizobium happens to enter into the root of a plant, it in fact forms a infection thread within the root cell. And this entry of this rhizobium within the root cell is of course due to the interaction of certain chemical signals which have been formed between the rhizobium as well as the root hairs. And once the infection thread penetrates into the root, what happens? It extends into the inner sides of the root cells rather than sticking onto the entry point or into the root hairs alone. So once it goes into the pericycle, the bacteria becomes metabolically a little bit inactive and it forms a structure called the bacterioids. And the region surrounding the bacterioids, the root cells will rapidly divide. And sometimes even the root hair will get sloughed off from the infected cell. And what happens? As the root cells are being the bacterioid associated root cells, they are being rapidly multiplying, and as a result the growth continues and a root nodule is being formed. Now this nodule will develop also into the vascular tissue, and further on it increases in diameter and it penetrates outside, and it grows many times the diameter of the root. So that's how a root nodule is being formed. So you have the bacteria which happens to enter here. It enters into the pericycle. The infection thread reaches to the pericycle and the surrounding root cells will start rapidly multiplying. And further on the root hair gets sloughed off and the growth still continues. And a bacterioid will remain there, but the cells adjoining it will again multiply and the root nodule is extended outside of the root, and you can see it as a projection. Now, what is a bacterioid? So, as we know here, it is a endosymbiotic as well as morphologically distinct nitrogen fixing bacteria which is mainly been found associated with the root nodules of leguminous plants when rhizobium infects the root nodules, and they are the sites where nitrogen fixation happens within the leguminous plants. And so the bacterioid within this, uh, yeah, the bacterioid specifically, or the rhizobium within the bacterioid, will fix nitrogen and convert it into ammonia, and in turn, the bacterioid will get nutrients from the plant. So, what are the features of these symbiosomes? These symbiosomes, now see, once these bacterioids come in symbiosis with the a plant, it is referred to as a symbiosome. You can look into this picture. So the bacterioid will further differentiate into the symbiosome in a leguminous plant. So in the symbiosome, usually there exist low levels of oxygen. And so what happens? Microaerobic type of respiration is being initiated by the bacteria. And we also know that these bacteria are capable of nitrogen fixation, and the enzyme nitrogenase which has been found associated to it, it has been found to be highly sensitive to oxygen. So when the rhizobium is within the symbiosome, it will only have low level of oxygen, and what happens? The remaining oxygen also will be combined with another pigment called the leg hemoglobin, which is being present in the nodules, and they will help to maintain this microaerobic conditions within the mature nodules. So the function of nitrogen fixation has been carried out by the nitrogenase enzyme, mainly in the leguminous plants, in the nodules, specifically speaking in the symbiosome, and microaerobic condition is being brought about over here. And you can see that the overall metabolic activity is being found to be reduced over here, but the nitrogen fixation and as well as the respiration rate will be found to be what? both of them will be over-regulated. And what happens is many of the symbiosomes will assemble together, and it will many of the bacterioids, okay, as well as the symbiosomes will combine together, and that will form the root nodule or the mature root nodule in a thing. So within the what do you say within the leguminous plants, you have nodules which have been formed by the assembled symbiosomes, and within these symbiosomes you are having what? Rhizobium. And rhizobium does nitrogen fixation, and for this it has what? A less oxygen environment, because of the morphological the thing which has been morphological environment which has been created by the symbiosomes, as well as by the leg hemoglobin. Now there exists a question: how does a mutualism arise over here? In the case of the leguminous plant, the plant will provide various amino acids to the bacterioids so that they need not assimilate ammonia. So now where does this ammonia come from? Normally, when the bacterioid is being present within the plant, it will fix atmospheric nitrogen to ammonia. And usually, of course, the bacteria also needs ammonia. But since the plant is providing the amino acids to the bacterioid, the ammonia which has been synthesized by the bacterioid is not needed by it. So what will it do? It will shuttle the amino acids which bear the newly fixed nitrogen. It will, this ammonia which it has fixed, it will shuttle back to the plant, and the bacteria will, so that was available to the plant, and bacteria will also receive carbon as well as energy in the form of dicarboxylic acids from the plant. So the plant is giving amino acids to the bacterioids as well as carbon and energy, and the bacterioid will fix atmospheric nitrogen to ammonia and shuttle it to the plant. And as a result, interdependent relationship is being developing, and it provides a selective pressure for the evolution of mutualism in root nodules of leguminous plants. Now, if you go to consider rhizobium, you cannot exclusively say that all rhizobium will cause nodulation in the case of roots, but you can see that some members of the rhizobium, especially bradyrhizobium, they are usually considered to be as slow nitrogen fixers, but they are also being found to be associated with leguminous plants, and they also fix nitrogen. But unlike the other rhizobium which nodulate in the roots, these nodulate in the stem, and some such stem nodulation by bradyrhizobium is mainly been found in the leguminous plants which occur in waterlogged conditions. And if you go to consider stem nodulation and root nodulation, there are some differences. In the case of root nodulation, you can see that a nod factor as well as the infection thread and all is being involved. But in the case of stem nodulation, the involvement of nod factor is not occurring. But in fact, what happens? The nod factor as well as cytokinin release is not necessary over in the case of stem nodulation, but the rhizobium just infects the plants and the nodules are being formed on the stems. So entrapped rhizobia will give a signal. It will serve as a signaling center for the stem nodules, and the nodulation will be initiated in the in the stems. So when we go to talk about the nitrogen fixation in plants, especially in the leguminous plants, you have rhizobium. Rhizobium specifically with the help of nitrogenase will cause nitrogen fixation in the root nodules, and another member bradyrhizobium can cause stem nodulation, especially in the waterlogged leguminous plants. I hope this is clear to you. Now, with this we come to an end of rhizobium mediated nitrogen fixation. Thank you for now.